Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special short version of Ethics. It's me, Conor Bromley. I'm joined by Taff, AltEnding, and we are here to sort of do the question of the week. But we've decided to do it as a sort of shorter video rather than somehow fitting it into the West Ham preview or propaganda that we were also recording. So, what we're going to talk about in this sort of hopefully 10-minute video is Wilson Isidor, because he's been linked with a move away potentially to Everton, Nottingham Forest, I think, are lurking. It said, I think it was Keith Downey had said that a few of their clubs had inquired. So before we really dive into the topic and whether or not the reasons to sell or keep Wilson Isidor, I want to preface everything I say here with I really, really like Wilson Isidor, and I would happily see him stay at the club. I've got no issues with Wilson Isidor. So when we say, if we both say that we want to sell him, it's not because we don't like him, it's just that it's pragmatic. So I just want to kind of put that disclaimer out there. But what do you make of these transfer rumours with Wilson Isidor? You got a cat in your room or something? I feel like, yeah.
No, I was looking for my Isidore just
T-shirt.
Nike t-shirt to say that I too like him, and if he leaves, I can't sell anyone any shirts. But,
Yeah.
not many people want to buy them, but they should. They're only £12 delivered to your door. So I really like him. He's on my son's football shirts. I'm going to have to buy him someone else if he leaves. So I just think he's a really positive character, but he hasn't been himself lately. And I think there is a danger when players come up for offers like that. I think we're all kind of agreed that Brian Brobby is striker number one. And so you are in a position to have a conversation about how much do we need striker number two, because he's not your main striker. So I was about to make a terrible analogy there. I was about to say it's not like trying to sell Kevin Phillips. It's like trying to sell Kevin Kyle. But Wilson Isidor is a much better second striker than Kevin Kyle. So no. So I think you'd be less willing to sell him, at any other point than now, because you didn't have a better striker. Perhaps Mayenda, but there were different types of players, and we only had those two. And we'd gone so long without a proper striker before we got him, and he was such a revelation when we got him that you wouldn't have dreamt of getting rid of him. But now Brian Brobby is just getting better and better with each game, and is young, and we've got him on a nice contract. And there is the expectation that at some point in the future we might sign another one. I think this is a conversation that lots of fans are having and are willing to have, where you never would have had this. Even like October, November, you probably would not have entertained this as a conversation. But here we are. And I realised I've not particularly given an answer there, but I just think the dynamic of is this a discussable topic has changed.
I think...
Sorry,
go on. No, I'll let you finish.
I think when you think about selling a player, there is what's his place in the team. Like I say, last year would have been unheard of. Start of this season, definitely not. What's his place in the team? To what extent does he offer something different? To what extent is he the way forward? And what's the price? I think those are considering points.
My thought process with this is that I really like Wilson Isidor, and I'm very happy for him to stay. But right now, I think the value of Wilson Isidor is probably the highest it's going to be. I mean, if we're talking somewhere north of £20 million, I mean, I think 25 million is seemingly what we're expecting if we were to sell him. If you got somewhere in the region of 20 to 25 million, I don't think that Wilson Isidor will improve beyond that number. I think that is the most money Sunderland could get for Wilson Isidor, unless he added more to his game. And look, he has improved as a player. He's hold-up plays got better this season, I would say. He's... I don't know if it's to say his finishing's better, but he's also showed the signs that we saw last season where he's quite inconsistent. You get a run of maybe 5 or 6 games where he's very good, and then you get a run of 5 or 6 games where he's struggling. I mean, right now, I think there's a fair argument to say he's number 3 in the pecking order. So, if Sunderland had to get 20 million plus for Wilson Isidor in January because Nottingham Forest want a striker, because Everton want a striker, then I think from a business standpoint and the health of the club and PSR and all that sort of stuff, it feels like good business.
So you're angling that this maybe is the high point, and this might be a practical decision. So
Yeah, my view is that if you were to look at Wilson Isidore as a player, I don't think his value will probably go above this number. I think if
what
and
would he have to
I
do to
do
get above that number?
well, I think he would probably need to score, I don't know, 10 to 15 goals. But also, the problem with Isidore is that it's the discussion we'll have about Brian Brobby. So when we're going to do our preview for West Ham later, there is no question around Brian Brobby's place in the team because Brian Brobby offers so much more than Wilson Isidore in terms of his hold-up play, in terms of, I think there's an argument to say he's potentially a better finisher. I don't know. Maybe they're similar in that regard. But I think Brobby offers so much more generally in his play than what Isidore does. Whereas Isidore, to me, this season, if he's not scoring, you do kind of sit there and question what else he's bringing to the table.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think when Wilson Isidore was knocking them in last year that we would ever see a player who scored more spectacular or unlikely goals than him. And yet Robbie's got two this season that just are seemingly impossible. So, yeah, I think I don't think it is necessarily practical. I can probably buy your argument about the high water mark, but if we take the premise that next season we're going to strengthen in creativity in the midfield, maybe have a young person to understudy Lefay and that sort of creativity in the 10 role or flexible role, maybe almost certainly add a right winger, unless Jocelyn Tarby proves to be some standout developer. Probably add another winger and shift a few, and perhaps. I think if we add those players and we play a little bit more adventurously, then Wilson Isidore would get more chances, and we would play in a kind of way where his strengths might be more useful. I concede that they're not as useful in the way we play at the minute, where he gets few chances and he's quite isolated at the minute. But with more pace, with more balls in the behind and more crosses and more creativity and more support up front, maybe at some point in the future, he is someone who could score 8, 12, 13, possibly 15 goals. I don't know. He's still got time to develop. So it might not be the case that this is the top end of his value. I think a lot could change depending on how you play. So, but I'd be happy to concede that maybe that is the top end and that might be a consideration. However, a more important point, I think, is that you indicate that he's perhaps the third striker now. Well, maybe he is. At some points, he's certainly our starting striker. At some points, he was certainly the guy who came on as the finisher and our second striker. That may yet prove to be the case again. If you sold him now, and then Mayenda got injured, or God forbid, Brobby, well, then what do you do? And I just think the question about selling people is never really about the money, particularly when it's 25 million, which in this day and age, doesn't get you a complete finished player at a top level. It gets you someone a top level player to develop.
They got a Brian Brobby.
Well, that's true, but we've had to be patient with him. So, yeah, but I think, it's not really about the money you get in. It's who you can get in replacement for that money.
That's true.
And it's difficult. And a lot of people sort of, their mouths water at the money, but it's about who you can bring in rather than the amount of money you collect. And you just have to look at the visitors up the road, spending 55 million on Elanga, and we're getting Nordi Mukiele for 9.5 million. I mean, they were bidding 60 million for Mark Gay a couple of years ago. So it's a question of who can you get. Now you would say we'd have faith in our recruitment team, so perhaps we sell Wilson Isidore, but I wouldn't be selling him unless we had somebody better to go immediately, like getting Habib Diarra in the moment we sold Joe Bellingham.
Yeah.
And I think if they're planning to sell him, well, then that's part of the plan, and they've already identified who they want to get in. Because Robbie gets injured, and after a week after Wilson's sold, that's typical Sunderland. And then we're knackered. We're not getting anywhere near top half then, I think.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not true. So
Okay.
I do think we need we need three strikers in case one of them is injured, and because even if Mayenda is injured, you still have to have a third striker who can substitute for Bobby when he pulls his hamstring or gets cramp, or
Yeah.
So no, it's about have we got a quality replacement? I don't know if 25 million is enough, and certainly not in the January window. So I wouldn't be selling him. No.
Well, I also agree. I would not say. I kind of went a bit devil's advocate because
Yeah, well,
I
someone
knew.
has to.
Yeah, I thought although it'd be quite boring if we both were just of the same view. But if I'm being brutally honest, I don't think January's the right time. I think Wilson Isidor is very good for the group generally. He's a positive character. I don't think he'd be itching for the move. I also think that when Sunderland are playing a big game, and I'm talking about, say, we've got Liverpool at home coming up on a Wednesday night in a few
Yeah.
weeks' time, and Wilson Isidor comes on maybe for the last 20 minutes of the game, he gives me a thought that he can do something. He's the kind of player that can score
Yeah.
goals for no reason. He's the kind of player that has a bit of an X factor around him, which, while Brobby has scored some amazing goals, I think it's all about brute force generally. Yes, his finishes have been good, but it's force and physicality that gets him these goals. Isidore
Absolutely.
could get in. He could do what he did against Liverpool away, where he got in 1-on-1 and on the counter attack, and yeah, he missed,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of thing he can do. So I would keep Wilson Isidore unless it was an outrageously crazy offer and they've got their eyes on a target who maybe better fits the group. Unless those things happen, I don't think that you sell Wilson Isidore. So I think we're both in agreement.
No.
Isidore
Yeah, we,
stays.
we, we, we need him, even if he's the third striker. There are still some teams that we will play who will press very high, and having somebody late in the game to counter like him is an asset. Even if he's the third striker, even if he doesn't come on very often, we need him because we might be caught short,
Yeah.
and we don't want to. So I keep him. Go again in the summer, but I'm only really ever selling Wilson Isidore if I have an alternative already lined up, because we don't need the money, we don't have to sell, and we got him on a contract for length, so it is at our pleasure and leisure that we shall decide, and that's only when we
Yeah.
get someone to replace him with. So no, stay for me.
Stay for me as well. There we go. Right, everyone, thanks for watching this. Please check out the other videos. We did the Palace review. We've got a Q&A video out. Obviously, this video, then we'll have a preview for West Ham. We'll have propaganda coming out this week as well. So watch out for all that good stuff this week.